The first school song of St. Paul's, a friend on the left and a friend on the right. We were a company. We were a woe. We were a woe. We were a woe. We were a company.
Good evening. The sun once again sets on the beautiful town of Panchkula. Yes, and we draw to a close yet another day in lockdown on my own on my lonesome. Let me talk about what I intend to start in the next few minutes. Yes, friends, a few days back I paid tribute to my Hindi teacher, Mr. Bhanu Pratap Shringi, and today time has come for me to talk about my English teacher. Yes, I'd said I'll talk about my English teacher, none other than one and only Mr. Mathew Panamkat. It was in the 60s that this man, a very humble man, more of a friend than a teacher, joined us at St. Paul's School, Kota. As a bachelor and simple ways, he had no other place to stay but stay with the other teachers. Those were the priests, Father Benedict Fernandez, Father Cyril Pereira, Father Anthony, and later on Father Clarence. Matthew Sir had a unique talent. He had a talent which he still carries with him. A talent of what we call the Harfan Mola, the all-rounder. If you think he was only an English teacher, you actually don't know him. Mathew Panamkat is till day an author, a writer, a script writer, a play director, a poet, a painter, a music writer, and so on and so forth. Let me take you back to the 60s, when the first batch of St. Paul's School, Kota, was readying itself, like John F. Kennedy says, now the trumpet summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, though arms we need. The speech of President Kennedy was driven into the elocution DNA of every boy of the first few batches of St. Paul's School, Kota. How did it happen? Let me take you a little more close to Mathew Panamkat, sir. As you enter the porticos of St. Paul's in those days, there was put up a beautiful statue of St. Paul's. And the great volunteer for service that Matthew sir was, he said, I will paint. And you know something? He painted the scene of the Vatican around the three walls around the statue. And as you enter the principal's foyer, where the left-hand side the office was and the senior-most class was, right in front was another beautiful scene on top of the main entrance. Mind you, single-handedly a teacher, using the color of the paints and his imagination, going deep inside and painting, and yet taking classes in English during daytime. This was not the end. He would write plays, he would direct plays, and he would act in the plays themselves. My mind runs very, very clearly to Railway Institute, Western Railway, Kota Junction, near the stadium, when we played the 3 hours long murder mystery called Kadgasal. Kadgasal was enacted with tickets. There were paid tickets for it. And the cast was personally selected by Mr. Mathew himself. And he acted. And there was a dual role for that role which he was enacting, and he dressed up someone. Anand Dubey was the name of the boy, just like him. It was a hammering success. Kadgasal, the painting by a Russian painter, and there was no looking back. There was S.R. Robber, there was Dudu Pudu Das series. And the grand finale was when the first batch passed out. He organized a play called Politics for Profit. And you know something? He motivated me to act in that play, which was for my badge as a farewell. Politics for Profit, where he, Mr. Mathew Panamkat, was a politician, a typical Indian politician, and I was his secretary, a typical chamcha. Mr. Mathew Panamkat has always had a way with people. Speaking of Guru Shishya Parampara, which I mentioned when I mentioned about Bhanu Pratap Shangi, Mr. Mathew wanted to become a priest. He was all prepared, he was all set. We had a very frank discussion and he shared his vision. But he also shared his vision with Father Anthony, Father Cyril, Father Benedict, who was his role model. They perhaps did not really stop him, but they reflected with him on what other perspectives he has. And in the Guru Shishya Parampara, when he asked the senior boys, we also told him, sir, go for academics. On advice of the staff around him, the relationship is so good that Mr. Mathew Panamkat joined Government College, Kota, for MA classes in English. He topped Rajasthan University and got the gold medal. A teacher from St. Paul's School, Kota, got the gold medal in complete Rajasthan University. After that, there was no looking back. He moved on to become a lecturer in St. Stephen's College, went on to England, went on to Middle East, came back to Delhi, so on and so forth. Mr. Mathew Panamkat has always been in touch with me. Today, it's exactly 50 years, the golden years, golden jubilee of my passing out of St. Paul's. We moved in life, but we have never moved away from Mathew Panamkat. He came for the golden jubilee of St. Paul's. He was one of the first teachers and the oldest teacher who came there, besides late Mrs. Robinson. Mrs. Fernandez couldn't come, she was not well. And he's been always in touch with me on Teachers' Day. How many of us are wishing up our teachers on Teachers' Day? He came home. Mr. Mathew Panamkat came home and he talked to my children. And he said, your father is a magician. And in the lighter vein, I must also tell you that I'm a retired colonel. So I had no option but to offer him the finest scotch. I had no other choice coming in my mind except teachers. We might have sipped teachers' whiskey together now as colleagues, but the relationship which I had with Mathew Panamkat is immense. He came for the St. Paul's get-together that I heralded as a leader to organize in Delhi Cant. Today, Mr. Mathew Panamkat is settled in Cochin. I extremely give him good health, good passion. He's written so many books. You need to go on the net to understand him. All that I need you to remind you of, that he also taught us to sing and sing together. And when he came home, we sang together. A friend on the left and a friend on the right. We were a company. We were a woe, we were a woe. We were a company. A friend on the left and a friend on the right. We were a company. Friends, this was the first school song. And this was the lovely feelings. Let's all wish Mr. Mathew Panamkat a long and happy life. I have attended his son's wedding. How can a teacher have so much of attraction for a child, a boy, an officer, and a veteran? Hats off. I salute St. Paul's and the teachers. First batch, remember friends, Colonel Amar Bindra. I will be soon talking to you about the genesis of St. Paul's School. How did it come into being? How did it produce magicians? How did this magic happen? Good luck. Goodbye. Jai Hind.
A friend on her left and a friend on her right. We were a company. We were a woe. We were a woe. We were a woe. What a delight. We were a company. Let's all once again and be friends.